UFO phenomenon over the past 20 years.
Hi, welcome back to Total Disclosure, everybody. My name's Ty, and I am the host and creator of the show. Today, we have one of the biggest shows that we've ever done. I've been anticipating this for quite some time. But today, Timothy Floyd Burchett, an American politician who is the U.S. representative for Tennessee's 2nd Congressional District. He, Representative Luna, Mr. Gates, and many more were responsible for putting together House hearings on UAPs that featured a Pentagon whistleblower and 2 pilots that have respectively been witness to UAPs on the West and East Coast. Today, we explore the mysteries of the unknown with Mr. Tim Burchett, and as always, we have my co-host Cortex Zero, aka Thomas. So what's going on, guys?
Well, thank y'all for having me on. It's actually Burchett. And nobody can ever get it right. I don't know why.
Burchett?
Burchett. Yeah, I was on Hannity the other night, and he called me Tom Burchett, and I thought that dumb. I should have. And I said, "Oh, it's actually Tim." And he goes, "I'm going to fire somebody." I said, "Please don't." I said, "I'll never get asked back on the show." And then, I used to say birch like the tree and et like I just ate breakfast. But then my wife said, "It's not Burchett, it's Burchett." And so
Burchett.
I don't know. The only person I know that's ever done it right first time was Donald Trump. And one of his handlers said, he stood in front of the mirror and goes, "Burchett, Burchett, Burchett." And so, and he never, I've been with him multiple times. He always says, "Tim Burchett." He does it right every dadgum time. I keep thinking he's going to mess it up, but he's the man on that. But, it's funny. It goes back and forth. I'll tell a producer right before I'm going on, like on Fox or Newsmax or one of the other News Nation, and they'll go, "Burchett," right? And then they'll get me on and go, "Tim Burchett." And it's whatever. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No. Don't definitely don't be sorry here. But Tim, you have been an outspoken guy when it comes to UAP and government involvement when it comes to the potential cover-up, which, we think has lasted more than, 80, 90 years, if you believe, what David Grush has been saying. But when did this all begin for you? Your curiosity, your energy when it comes to this topic is vibrant and it's almost consuming in a way. Where does it all come from?
I had really cool parents. That Daddy studied science. He fought in the Second World War, and he brought home I remember a German microscope that he took out of a Japanese cave that they blew, and of all things, a microscope. And I've still got it. I remember looking at paramecium under it and all kinds of cool stuff. I was just into science, So I go to the library. I'm a weird kid. Ride my bike over to the library. Now parents would be written up by Child and Family Services for turning their kid loose like that.
Yeah.
And Mama taught school. Dad was a dean at UT, Dean of Student Conduct. And brother and sister older, they were smart and good looking and great athletes, and I was none of those things. So I'd ride my bike over there to the library, and they had these books set out, and something on Bigfoot and then something on UFOs. And, it all just fascinated me because it's like, what is this Bigfoot? What's these UFOs about? So I start reading about it. I'm probably 7 or 8 years old. And it just fascinated me. And, I'm a Christian. I'm not a very good one, but I read my Bible. First chapter of Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth. And then you read first chapter of Ezekiel, he saw the wheel. As a King James interpretation of a story. And the most technologically advanced thing they had, you got to realize, was a wheel. And he talks about a wheel within a wheel, which is the classic flying saucer. And then in the landing gear, describing it as like some kind of similar to something on an animal's hoof or something. So it's the classic thing. And then,
right.
It's and Gordon Cooper, one of the most famous astronauts we ever had, Apollo astronauts. He described a craft just like that landing, and of course they filmed it, sent it to Wright-Patterson, which was a mistake because they denied they ever got it. And this guy's the freaking coolest astronaut ever.
A legend. He's a legend.
Why would he lie? You could walk in any bar in America and somebody buy him a beer and a T-bone, for the rest of his life. There's no reason for a guy like that to lie. And then, then you fast forward to these hearings. I've got the best pilots in the world telling me they're seeing something, and it's out there, dude. And it's a huge cover up. You got the war pimps at the Pentagon. There they are right there. I could have taken that picture. And it just go through it all. Like I said, the Pentagon, they billions of dollars. They never pass an audit. And we give them more money every year. If you don't, you're not patriotic, which is what they're trying to label me. I've hit this thing pretty hard. I've been told by some pretty well-informed people that I needed to be careful. I probably need to get some security.
Watch your back.
And, it's a real deal. You're talking billions of dollars. And go ahead. So
let me ask you a question. All these people, and Tom's gonna go rebound off this, but you have reputable people coming to you saying you need security. You need to watch your back over something that's quote unquote not real.
Yeah. Well,
how does that make sense?
The Pentagon says they don't exist, but they spend a lot of effort to discredit us. And Grush, of course, they coming out that he's got PTSD. Somebody leaked that. Well, it was, there was a police report, and dadgummit that, that's public record. But somebody in the intelligence community said, "Hey, you need to go look at this." Why would they go look at a Maryland? I mean, the guy who did the article even stated he was tipped off by somebody in the intelligence
community.
Yep.
And so this is it's just brutal. It's the brutal facts. You got these Tic Tac videos showing a craft that has no heat signature. Could you imagine what that would do to our energy people that own these corporations and the Pentagon if we found an energy source that would heat houses in the winter and cool them in the summer? Our automobiles could run off of it, our jets, our rockets, everything could run off of it. And what that would do to them. We wouldn't be fighting these worthless wars over in the Middle East. Those sheiks they could eat that sand. We wouldn't have to
literally.
We wouldn't have to be doing all these deals with the devil. And American boys and girls wouldn't be dying in wars. And it's just too much. And so, I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress. There's only 435. But I'm just going to keep chewing at it. My buddy Matt Gaetz wrote a letter to Speaker McCarthy about a special, a select committee, they call it. Now, you got to realize that select committee, we'd be able to subpoena these folks and get them under oath to answer questions. So I would think that would relieve us from having to go into the SCIF. But if you go into the SCIF, remember this. You go into the SCIF, which is secure, whatever it stands for.
Secure Compartmentalized Information Facility. Lead lined, it's James Bond kind of stuff. You can't take your cell phone in. You can't take your Fitbit. I don't have a Fitbit. Your pager. I don't guess I have pagers. And your pager.
Pager.
You can't put any electronic devices in there. So I've literally been in there before, and they come in and say, we're picking up a signal. Somebody's got a cell phone in here. And somebody, some of these guys have 2 or 3 cell phones. I forgot one. They take it back out. So anyway, but you go into the SCIF, and if you're briefed on something, even if you already know this stuff, by law, you turn around, you're not allowed to talk about it. So putting somebody in the SCIF doesn't necessarily give us that information. Putting them in front of the select committee with their lawyers present does. And we can release some things that way. And then fast forward again, Chuck Schumer's got this bill, and I'm sure he's doing it in an honest way. Honestly, I think he means well, but all he's done is he's going to put a bill out there, and I don't know what it's going to do, but from the way I read it, it says that you will have to we'll have a clearinghouse for all this UFO information, or UAP, whatever you want to call it. Well, dadgummit. Yeah, clearinghouse. And if it has to, if it's a national security risk, they can't release it. Well, guess what? None of this stuff none of it will pass. It will all be a national security risk. So they're going to lock us down and not allow any of this stuff out. And so let's get it out. I want total transparency, as I said in the committee. I don't bring me any flying saucers or little green men. Just tell me what the hell's going on and let me be the one to decide if I can handle it or not.
Well, that leads us to one of our next questions, Tom. I think that's on you about that very thing. What comes next, right? So, Tom.
Tim, obviously, just back in July, we had the hearings that were historic to many of us, and you, Representative Luna, Representative Gates, all had to jump through flaming hoops just to get this done, all these obstacles. What should we expect to start seeing post-recess from the House or the Senate, possible future hearings? Like, where are we at right now? Where do we stand?
And I would like to give a big shout out to my buddy Jared Moskowitz. He's a Democrat out of Florida. He's the man. He's a great attorney.
Jared.
Yeah, he's a dude. We don't agree probably on politics, but I love him, man. He's great.
But
he's my boy. I tell you,
that's the thing.
It's so nice to hear that.
It is a bipartisan, nonpartisan, whatever. And what's next? We got to get this select committee. Friday was my birthday, and
happy birthday, Representative.
I wasn't fishing for that, but thank you. I'll take it.
What are you, 25 now?
59, dude. 59. I've aged 10 years in the last 5 years. Anyway, so I said to Speaker McCarthy, he called to wish me a happy. He always, hey, sunshine. I'm not sunshine, but that's what he calls me. And he says he wished me a happy birthday and was talking about my little girl and my wife, and we talked. I said, hey, don't forget about that. Don't forget about us on that select committee. And he says, well, when you coming by? I thought you were coming by at the end of July, and I got bit by a spider, and the spider bite made me sick. But then they gave me a shot, and that just it put me out. It was like I had the flu. Boy, I was hurting. So I finally made it off the couch to go make the final vote and get on the plane and go home. But anyway, and I said, he said, well, come by, and we're about middle of September. I'm going to get to go back and plead my case with him, because there's a lot of issues there. Not just the transparency issue, which should be first and foremost to the media, but the other issue was the way we treated a veteran under whistleblower protection was outed, that PTSD, and here we are trying to get veterans to come forward with PTSD, and then we bust this guy's ass, and that just wasn't cool. I mean, maybe in Washington D.C. that kind of garbage is accepted. I'll tell you, in East Tennessee where I live, it ain't cool. And Daddy fought in the Pacific. Mama lost a brother fighting the Nazis. My wife's a Navy widow. The biological father of my daughter is a master chief on a Navy sub. We take that stuff very serious here, and the way
we do.
And then the way they did that poor guy is just not cool.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of people like Mario Woods who have had experiences at nuclear facilities, and we know that he's testified to ARROW, but ARROW seems to be as useful as a wet blanket. So
they trashed us. That guy they need to go out of business is what they need to do. $1 billion
we've been
right there.
We've been discussing that, and you've kind of touched on a lot of the points already, but if you don't mind, I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole a little bit. Do you think, after everything that you've heard and that you've seen so far, do you think that there's a possibility that these UAP, this technology, have you seen evidence to suggest that they do not have our best interest at heart?
I have not seen any of that. We've had 14 near miss encounters. I think, just my theory, I'm not a scientist. I think the reason you're not seeing any wrecks or anything of recent, because I think we realized what brought them down. What I think was some of our antiquated. It's antiquated now. Back then it was new. Is radar technology. I think that might have had some interference with them, and cause those things to wreck. I think that's probably what happened at Roswell, because around these military installations, and they tend to crash around them. Why they crash around them? Well, that's where the radar is, and that's where the military activity is. And honestly, that'd be where they were going to check us out, see how advanced we are, and if we were a threat. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry. What was your question? I got chasing down my own rabbit hole there. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It was have you seen any information?
Oh yeah,
or
that would be harmful. And I know all three of them said it was a threat. I just don't see it personally. If they have that kind of incredible, crazy technology, flat 5Gs from 0 to 5Gs, and just
0.7 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, just something ridiculous that we can't even measure. I mean, that would turn you or me into a bottle of ketchup, and it'd be over. I mean, literally physics, and geophysics, and we just go through all the other sciences. It just doesn't work from what we know. But space.
Yeah, and you brought it up already, so I'm just gonna sneak it in there, and then Tom can go on to the question that we one of my favorite questions. But you brought up the nuclear connection. Now, there seems to be a connection between UAPs and our nuclear programs, not just our nuclear programs, but nuclear programs around the world, Russia, around the world. This is not just a United States thing. There's multiple cases in the United States of UAP being seen, and then missile silos being shut down. There's not
a documented case, and it was brought up to the attention in that first hearing of the Intelligence Committee back last year, and the two gentlemen that were brought in from the Pentagon couldn't spell UFO, much less UAP, and they were asked about that incident, and they didn't know anything about it, and that's kind of where we're at, man. I mean, this is a cover up, and you bring in people I'm sure those gentlemen were well intentioned and knowledgeable, but they didn't have any clue. They're just career bureaucrats, and it just Stone Date just said happy birthday, Tim. Well, thank you, appreciate that. All my apes, I hope, are stoned, because they're pretty. And I don't like apes in cages. I go to the zoo. I can't go to the zoo anymore. It depresses me. I look at this poor ape.
Me neither. I feel the same way. I can't go to the zoo either.
Wow, what a transition, Tom. I think we have a great question about that.
Anyway, back to the other. I don't fear them. I just don't. I'm not that kind of technology. I think they would have done us in a long time ago.
Well, as much as I agree with that, there is obviously a particular aspect of this whole situation and phenomenon that, as many of us in the community are aware of, I know people personally that this affects. So this question it's personal to me for many different reasons. It's personal to a lot of us, but if Congress were to find out that abductions were taking place, whether an agreement has been made between humans and some intelligent civilization, NHI, whatever it may be, what or how could Congress handle that type of thing? Like, what steps would the United States government take in basically expressing to their citizens that we are in a situation where people are being removed for some reason, that reason aside, and there's nothing that we can do to stop that?
Well, I'd volunteer about 350 people for that process if I had that, if I was able to do that. But I don't know. I've never had that question asked.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's.
I've talked to abductees before too, and like I said, as a congressman, all I want is transparency. I didn't.
Is it safe to say though that you would take it as serious, if not more
if somebody brought me undeniable proof that was going on, you're dead gum right over 100%. That's why I don't knock people for their different. I know you got the cube with the plasma, and we talked a little bit about it in the off. That's something that has been spotted, and I'll just say I've been in a different setting. I've been told of similar type things from some very reliable sources. And it does, but I don't understand it. I don't get it. All I can understand is some craft flying around up here, and something's in it driving, flying it. And it's a simple thing and I can understand it. But again, I just want to turn loose the files, turn loose the videos, turn loose the pictures, and let's go.
Speaking of that, Chris Mellon, who I'm sure you're very familiar with, recently wrote an article about our air defense systems, which the taxpayer, continues to fund at enormous rates. They either aren't detecting UAP or they are, and NORAD is not releasing that info to ARRA or Congress. Can you comment on this? I mean, we have.
I'll just give an example. I had an amendment on the reauthorization. So they get reauthorized every few years. And, they load it up with amendments that hopefully that are germane to that issue, which a lot of them aren't, because that's how you get these support bills. Like Nancy Pelosi said, you got to pass it to know what's in it, kind of thing. Well, I put an amendment in there that said if a commercial pilot, not a private pilot, not a military pilot, but a commercial pilot has an encounter in the air, the UAP, UFO, some other anomaly, and they make a report, which they do. They make a report to the FAA, and that report would be made available to Congress. Well, I'm told by the whip, who's the person who runs the bills, I said, what the hell happened to that amendment? It wasn't even heard. And they said, well, the intelligence community had a problem with that. They had a problem with it. A bunch of unelected bureaucrats had a problem with an amendment. And, it's national defense. It's that, let us, pat you on the head. Let us handle that stuff. That's a little too complex for your little minds. That is the arrogance we're dealing with. And it's both parts. It doesn't have anything to do with Democrats or Republicans. It's just the arrogance of power and abuse. And there's money involved, of course, whether it be tax dollars or other outside investments to study whatever's going on. But that's where it tells you where we're at. That should have been a national story, and why that amendment was not heard.
Agreed.
And I could not agree more, because I think that's why it's sad to see you have that stance on the Schumer bill, that you don't think it'll necessarily get in. But what we're up against is something. It's a machine that's kept this secret for God knows how many years.
Yeah, I think the Schumer Amendment will get in, and when it does, it's just going to provide another layer of bureaucracy between you, me, and the truth. That's what I'm afraid, because the amendment basically says it's a clearinghouse for UFO related stuff, and then unless it's a national security risk, and all they got to do is say it's a national security risk on every single thing, except for
it's done.
And then it's hidden again, and and they'll release they'll throw you a few bones. There'll be we had this. It could have been a party balloon released, in Alaska or something. We'll get something like that. Everybody will circle around and go, oh wow, and then and pat the Congress on the back for doing the right thing, and all they're doing is misleading us.
Right.
It's a shame.
It is. It's such a shame, and I mean David Grush, right? And how commendable his actions were. He never hid the fact that he had certain issues like PTSD, which 1 in 5 American veterans come back with, right?
Yeah.
And
my dad was in the Pacific to the day he died in his 80s. I never woke him up. I always did it over his toe. I never got over the front of him, his shoulders or anything. Because I don't know where the hell he'd wake up from.
Wake up strangling you. And so for this guy to come forward, for him to put his ass on the line, and then be discouraged by smear jobs by Ken Klippenstein, some nobody at The Intercept. It's just a whole ironic mess, that whole smear job that they tried, which ultimately backfired on them. But do you think that was a way to discredit and discourage future whistleblowers?
I do, but I think they fell into the briar patch, as they say. I think they fell into our trap, really. I mean, we said they were going to do that, and sure as hell they did it. I just didn't think they'd do it so fast. But but it still doesn't take away from the fact you got two other men there that, I mean, on film, are chasing something. And it just to me, it just blows my mind that people aren't just calling their legislators and their senators and congressmen, say total disclosure. We want total disclosure, nothing less.
That's it.
That's going to be a soundbite going to be a soundbite for the rest of eternity.
That's right. I think that's a good segue into a question that I get a lot and have received from a dozen different people a day, basically, that they wanted me to ask. And Ty, you already nailed this one when you typed it up. What can we do as the citizens of this country that don't have any sort of political power, really, except for our votes and our voices and us contacting our representatives, like you said? What can we do to help you, to help Luna, to help Gates, everyone? How can we work together to get to the bottom of this moving forward?
I think you need to write your congressman or call your congressman and say, we need this select committee on UAP, UFO. Bottom line, pray for your country first, because we need it. We're going to lose our country, but part of the problem we have with our country is just the arrogance of the people that are in charge, that we put in charge. And a lot of them are unelected. And they survive. They'll survive everything. And the other thing is, get registered to vote. I'm a conservative, okay? Everybody knows it. You can check my record, and I don't care. I'm conservative, but I'm not angry about it. But,
right.
They had 30 million so-called conservatives stayed home this last presidential election. That's just unacceptable. I live in the city of Knoxville, and I did live in the city. I'm in the county now, but our city mayor's races are going on right now. And it is, I think we'll have maybe 15% of the people vote or something like that. And they're not going to take this thing from us, folks. We are just giving it to them. And they are laughing at us. They are laughing at us because we don't have the guts to get out and take an hour out of your busy schedule every 2 or 4 years, get your ass to the polls.
Right.
And my Christian friends, I'm going to tell you, I don't think God, you pray about what you need to be doing on election day, but I guarantee you God isn't telling you to stay home and watch The View. Get out and get to the polls.
Do your civic duty, because if that's the I couldn't agree more. People need to vote. I mean, if you want to make change happen, you need to be there on voting day. And for
remember too, it's public record that you vote. It is not who you vote for, but it is public record. So you're on the phone with me. I can get on the computer. I don't have that technology. I've got it. I don't know how to do it, but I can literally get on the phone or on the thing and say, see if this person is a registered voter, and if they voted, and and then that's a pretty easy click right there. Right. Oh yeah, I'll get right on that. Boom, circular filing cabinet right there in the trash can.
Right.
But everybody, but it's just a crying shame we're at that stage in this country.
And I honestly, I don't want to say anything. Of course, the Republican, the debate just happened. Christie was asked a question about UAPs from the moderator, the Fox lady, and it was a very serious question. It was national security related. How do you I'm sure you watched that, but how do you feel that when that question got asked, everyone starts laughing, and we see that.
Honestly, you got a couple of things. I don't watch debates. I haven't watched debates since George Bush Sr. I think debates are bogus. You bring your side, I bring my side, and we both leave thinking we won. Everybody thinks they won. They're paid pundits that tell them what color tie to wear, how to comb their hair, glasses, how to answer you something. Just keep down the line, and those guys are playing to that audience, and the audience is generally all your supporters of every group. They're allotted a certain amount of, and there's no, it's no undecided votes there. That's just bogus, and they make a mistake over the 1,500 people in the audience versus the 15 million that could possibly be watching. But I dare say more people were watching reruns of the Cartoon Network than were watching that stupid debate. So I just don't give it a lot. And Chris Christie, I don't know what he said. I honestly, I haven't
He
watched
just made it a joke.
Yeah, he made it a joke. And I believe he needs to go back and read his opinion polls, because over half the country believes in UFOs, believes in extraterrestrial life. Over half. It's close to 60% now. And go ahead.
More than believe in Congress, I'll tell you that much.
That's my T-shirt. I made a T-shirt over that, and that's how I got involved. Yeah, TMZ asked me.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they called. Yeah, I've got a T-shirt on my website that I sell. I guess Burchett for Congress.
I got to get me one of those.
I was going to say, I'm ordering that.
It says more people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress. And I said that on TMZ. And I said, this thing's a joke. I said, this report, it looked like a piece of Swiss cheese, blah, blah, blah. Well, they put that out. And then all of a sudden, I'm the UFO. That's how I got to be the UFO guy. I ended up going back on TMZ with those guys. And because the guy who is a black fella, he's a buddy of mine. I took him to lunch the other day because he's looking for he's doing some other stuff too. I'm just trying to encourage him because that they're hustling, but that's how I got really. It put me out on this thing. I didn't ask to do it. And then everybody started calling me. Lou Alessandro, all these other guys on the phone calling me all the time, or not calling me all the time, but saying, "Hey, you interested in this issue? Let's talk." And so I'm talking to people all over the world, literally Israel, England. I'm on podcasts weekly over in Europe, and I'm almost up. I got over 90-something thousand. I think I'm at 95,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah,
good for you.
I'm on Fox News talking about it. I mean, I'm mainstreaming it. I'm not running from it. Because
no, you're not, and that's what I think people like about you is you're not just one of these guys who lays over and keels to whatever the public perception or
it's not politically correct.
It's not.
You're just being you, and you're going for it.
It's killing my fundraising, and it's in my district, and it really it's hurting, and it's and I don't know where my support is. I don't do many polls. I guess I'll know on election day, but I already see the opposition making fun of me and the tweets and the internet and stuff. So I know that's what they're going to come after me on. And so, but it's the truth. We got to get to the bottom of it. Let's get some transparency. What's all this money going to, and where the heck are these things?
Absolutely.
Right
so
on.
I think one of the last questions we have for you today, and like I said, hopefully this will be the first of many conversations with you, and we want to talk to Representative Luna and Gates and get them all on. And
she's about ready to have a baby, so give her a little bit of time. So
yeah, but we'll talk. We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk. But do you think that these UFOs maybe predate us? Do you think there's a chance that they've been here for longer than us?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't have to
go
too deep into it.
With that kind of technology, I think infinity's a long ways out, man. We are a grain of sand on 1,000 beaches. There's 1,000. It's just vast. It's just God. Every night, my crazy dogs. I got 3 of them: Buzz, Charlie, and Roscoe. I try to get them to go to the bathroom before we go to bed. They never do. 4:30 in the morning, they're scratching. My wife's, atomic bomb could go off. My wife doesn't wait. I think she's faking, what I think, because she knows I'll get up. So I'm up. I got my glasses. I got my cell phone. I got my pistol. We're going out the back door in a little fenced-in area there. And I look up at the stars every night. Every night I look for those stars, and I think, wow, the light from those stars. Some of those light left before the time of Christ. And some of those stars don't even exist anymore. I mean, the vastness of God's great universe. Are we the best that he can do? And I submit to you, no, we're not the best that he can do. We are completely arrogant. And, if we think that, and I just think there's some more out there. And it just.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the answer is going to be. I may be on my deathbed and they're still not bringing any pictures. Not going to admit what happened at Roswell to this.
No, I truly.
Somebody's gonna walk out of one of those labs somewhere, one of those private entities that we continue to fund through defense contractors, and eventually somebody's gonna walk out and they're gonna throw the stuff up on YouTube before they're allowed to commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 5 times. Because that's what they'll tell them. Suicide. They're crazy.
Yes, they suicided.
What a way to say that. That's right. What a way to say that.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. We know it. You know it. And
So
that's the way Washington operates.
yeah, and I think that you have set a chain of dominoes that cannot be undone. I think what you've done. Jeremy Corbell said it best. You're a warrior for truth in this UFO topic. Tom and I both have so much respect for you and your family for taking this subject on and for not being afraid to take a risk for your career over the betterment of humanity. Most politicians would play it safe, but you, my friend, you've done something that I respect, and as I don't respect many politicians. So I thank you so much.
Appreciate that. You guys are great. I hope y'all keep putting the truth out there, man. We're going to get to it. Just keep fighting, keep supporting these people, and keep the pressure on these politicians. They're like Hollywood. They'll do the right thing if you force them to, but they're not going to do it if you force them.
Right.
We're not giving up anytime soon.
Absolutely not. So stick around just for another minute, Tim, if you can, while we wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope this was a good and insightful conversation with Congressman Burchett. God, that's gonna drive me nuts. Burchett. I'm going to say it 100 different times. And we hope you got the most out of it. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. And if you want to help support the show, become a member on YouTube or Spotify. Guys, we'll see you next time, and let's keep exploring the unknown together.